name's Nikki. I'm the curator of the Pemberton Museum, and this is our Teen Tales program. I want to start by acknowledging that this program is taking place in the unceded territory of Lil'wat Nation. We're nearing the end of 7 presentations we've been running all summer, so we've got today, next week, and then August 21st is the last one. And our theme this year is Myths and Legends. Pemberton's been a place name on European maps for over 160 years. Prior to this, it was and remains the traditional territory of the Lil'wat Nation. To celebrate the depth of history in this place, we picked the theme of myths and legends, as these tend to be the oldest and most informative stories we have of the past. A myth is defined as an ancient story or a set of stories, especially explaining the early history of a group of people or about natural events or facts. Myths serve to unfold part of the worldview of a people or explain a practice, a belief, or a natural phenomenon. A myth is a story that's told again and again and serves to explain why something is the way that it is. A legend is a collection of stories about an admirable person or a significant event, non-historical and unverifiable, yet handed down from tradition and accepted as historical. A legend is presumed to have some basis in historical fact and tends to mention real people or events. Historical fact morphs into a legend when the truth has been exaggerated to the point that real people or events have taken on a romanticized, larger-than-life quality. So basically, a myth tells us why things are the way that they are, and a legend tells us how we were. Next week, we have Diane Mitchell, who's the Curator of Education and Collections, and Marshall Tischauer, a retired miner, who's going to talk to us about the legendary copper mine of Britannia. And our last presentation on August 21st will feature Professor Matthew Unger from Concordia University, who will be presenting some highlights from his research into the local legend of the Tom Poole murder in 1879. And you can find the lineup on our website or watch for our promotions on Facebook. And just a reminder to all of you that we do film these for the historical record. Today, Johnny Jones is going to share his knowledge of the land with us and will tell us about his grandfather, Kupman, the medicine man. Johnny's a cultural resource technician with the Lands and Resources Department and has spent his life walking and studying Lil'wat traditional territory. His traditional name means weather changer. And he spent his life promoting traditional knowledge and the stories about the land that sustain Lil'wat Nation. The land and the people are one. Johnny has contributed greatly to our understanding of Lil'wat traditional territory and often travels to conferences and gatherings to share his knowledge. He works with archaeologists, ethnographers, and high school and university students to share his knowledge and to broaden our understanding of Lil'wat territory. We're honored that Johnny could join us today. He's actually on vacation.
Yaqalatqa7. I am from the Wolf clan, Mr. Bear clan, the Owl clan, and the Grey Wolf clan from down Yaqalatqa7. And today I'd like to bring you on a little journey with me, following me through this unceded territory of the Lil'wat Nation. And I'll be talking about my grandfather, Kupman, who went to some Indian wars back in the USA back in the 1800s. And so this is the elder side, the men's side in my family. I have here listed my dad, my father, James Ponce Jones, and my uncle KK. We call him KK because that represents the blue jay. And my older brother, Peter Jones, he was the one that took me to the mountains as a young boy when I was like 9 years old. Started cruising the mountains. And this is my grandfather, Kupman. And he was born in 1837, and he died in 1962. So that made him 125 years old. He lived a long life because he was a khanam, he was a medicine man, and at a young age, at 16, he went down to the USA to have a couple of war battles there, because the runners from the USA came up this way, running to each different reserve to bring some warriors back to the USA to help them out. And the battle of 1876 was a Little Bighorn. Yeah, the Little Bighorn, he went there and he had the battle there and he won the battle. And he stayed down there. He was like about 16 years old, and he stayed there for a while, trained, and came back again. And then 1877, when Chief Joseph was coming to Canada, my grandfather went down again to battle. And his eardrums got blown up from the cannons, blastings all around him. But he survived that, and and he came back again, and he traveled up into the mountains across Skateen. You know where the old church is in Kupman, where the three towers are facing across the river. That's a place we call Glacier Lake, and in our language we call it Tuathlina. Tuathlina is the Glacier Lake where my grandfather trained, and he stayed up there for a long time. And when my dad met his daughter, my mom, my dad had to go up there and train for 4 years straight too, as a young man. And I like maps. When my grandfather passed away in 62, he drew a map of Tuathlina for me as a hand-drawn map. And I have it at home, and it's all the areas that he used up there in the Glacier Lake. He had cabins, and there's a lot of old stuff up there. And this is a 1912 map of the lower Lil'wats. It was the surveyors, and we came through marked out the reserves there on the Lil'wat River. And this is Tuathlina. This is the Glacier Lake. You can see the Lil'wat River is right there, and when you cross Skookumchuck, you go up the mountain into Glacier Lake, and we're at the southwest end there. So my grandfather was staying in this area, and that was before they made it into reserve. And so he has a lot of, he drew me a map, sketch that had cabins in there, and there's other stuff like all over, and trails going to the coast, trails going through Fire Lake, and down Socket and right to the Pitt Rivers. Those are all hand-drawn in his map. And I had it on here, but I took it off. I didn't want to show it how it was. I've been doing a lot of research and stuff, and I've been gathering old maps here, and this is one of the 1850 Gold Rush maps somebody just posted it, so I just kind of took it. And so we're like, we're right in this area here. So that's the first, one of the first Gold Rush maps that came through. And this is another one, and we're all right in here too. And you can see this is the Fraser River right there, and this is where we come up and right here, and there's the Green Lake area. So, and you can see each creek has gold written on the creeks there. If you can see it, I bet you can see it yourself. And, in 1859, the Royal Navy and engineers that came through, they followed the trail, our Indian trail from Squamish to Lil'wat here. So that's one of their maps we marked down here, and their routes. And that was probably the first time the Squamish people came through because they were afraid of us, because if our people saw them out in this area, they'd be slaughtered. Back in the old days, the Indian wars were territorial. People protected their territory. And so So on this 1859 to 1865 map here, it was also done by the engineers. They're just trying to find the best route to come into the gold fields up here in Canada from California. And yeah, another map here, and we're right down in this yellow area here. And you can see all the mountainsides there, and I just got, this is a full map of Samuel Black's 1833 map, and that's he started mapping British Columbia there, and he came from this way, and there's the north arrow right there. So we're like right in here. So we just part of these map there. So they're mostly like using the Fraser area, and I kind of blew it up. Here I blew it up. And I switched the map around, so there's the north arrows down there, and you can see it. And I added the Harrison Lake and the Lil'wat Lake in there. So and that's the Fraser River there, and everybody came up this way and we went through there to the gold fields. So you can see some of the old trails on there too yet. Another Royal Navy map. When they came through there, they're plotting, still looking for, Navy places and trying to find the best route through the country. And in 1860, this is Safford Duffy. When he came over from Lil'wat, they followed our Indian trails again, and they marked all the different camps where they stayed, and he marked down different routes, trails. There's a trail to the Hellimore right there, and we had another trail coming this way to Lil'wat Lake there. And so there's like, our people were camping out there already, and here they had, you notice a lot of people with gardens. They had gardens out there already in the Duffy Lake area. And Duffy Lake area, right in what you call blowdown here, our people call it Lone Wolf, and Lone Wolf is, that's where my other grandfather died in 1933. When he was up there trapping, he died in an avalanche up there, and so that was, quite a long story in that too. And in 1906, this map was done by James Tate, and I added the tribes on there. The dots are all the tribes, and the upper Statham are the upper load are the Statham, and we're the Lil'wat wool. And down below the tribes in the river are there the Nakshin, and Nakshin starts from Harrison Lake to Skookumchuck there. And all the red dots are like we have. These are all our village sites right down to Whistler, Rebel Creek. That's Green River, Green Lake, and Rebel Creek right there. We have village sites there, and until 1850, and then 1858, our people moved to the Pemberton valleys from Whistler. And this is a Randy Bouchard place name map there, and he kind of divides it up there. You can see where he has his boundaries between Chuckermass and Green Lake there. We do have all the place names there. And this is what I'll be talking about tomorrow on the Whistler and place name areas. And a lot of you guys are probably familiar with Hot Springs, and there's Lil'wat Hot Spring there, and there's St. Edmunds Hot Springs that we call the Skookumchuck Hot Springs. And there's the Glacier Lake is right there. So a lot of the trails come through there, and down through there, and to the pit through there. And some of our people, before they used to go down and vote through there. This hop chat right there, that's Douglas, and there are village sites there, and so and Scapine there, and Glacier Lake right there. There's Schmackam there. And this is, we did this map here in '96 with all 11 tribes in the whole Shaflim there, and we're in the center. The reason why we're the nation, Lil'wat Nation, is because we've protected our traditional territories from invading tribes like the Chilcootins, Shuswap, and the Thompson down this way. And so like, they came in all the time to our area to do battle with us, and so we had to defend our traditional territory. And yeah. And this is my dad, my father, Jimmy Jones, James Ponce Jones. He was 16 years old here on his horse, and his horse was named Sunset. This is my uncle KK Blue Jay. We're going up to Glacier Lake, and he jumped out of the vehicle and he wanted to go look over the edge there. And so I always have a camera with me, and I just called his name, KK, and I took a photo of him. There's again, this is Lake Fraser Andrew and Lake KK, and there's Joanne John. We're having a general meeting there in a declaration in the old Montgomery gym. And that's that. Sorry, I kept changing my slides. I had more, like probably 50 slides on my thing here, and I just kind of kept working it over and over, because I got to do another presentation. I was trying to do two things at once here, and so I just ended up deleting a lot. Yeah, so any questions on anything?
Your last slide of the gathering, what year was that?
I think it was our old gym, probably around '96 or something like that. Yeah, before the old Ulush, before they built the Ulush. Yeah.
Johnny, can you tell us a little about the war in the Stein Valley?
We had several wars with the Thompson tribes, and that came over the Stein Valley there, and I've got a few of them documented, like 1830, and the last one was 1850, and that's when they came in, raided, stole the children and the women and food and caches, and then they started going over the mountains. And so, because our men weren't home, they're out hunting in the mountains down below there, and then one of the runners went down there and told them and got a hold of them. So we had some medicine men down there, and one of them made it snow, and the other one made lightning and fire, and he was able to make fire and just throw the fire balls right to the enemies. They followed them up the Lizzie Creek until they got to a place called, they call it Battle Creek, but it was Scudmore Creek. But my dad told me it's 2 creeks back from Battle Creek there. That's where the battle took place, and that's where all the bones were left there, and all you could find the artifacts stuck in the trees, because it was winter time, and the enemies were staying in the trees. They're like all hollow from the snow there, so they just slid down in there and they stayed there, and so that's where they got killed in there. And yeah, so
That was the 1850.
that was the 1850 battle. That was the last battle, and after that, one of the chiefs from Lytton, he warned his warriors not to come this way, but they're young and didn't want to listen. So when all his warriors got killed, people let one guy go, and when we sent him back down to tell his tribe what happened, because that's how we pass the stories on. We leave one person alive and send him back home. And when he went home, his chief was already sharpening a stick around the fire, and he made it sharp as he could. And when the warrior came back and told him what happened, and he said, "I warned you guys not to go, and you didn't listen. I have relatives over there in Lil'wat." So he just put that stake right through his heart, and that will be the last battle we have with the Lil'wat Nation. So, and he had time after that to gather a whole bunch of stuff to have a potluck. She came over the Stein Valley again to Lizzie bay there, and he stayed there for 3 days and had a potluck there, and he was calling all the Lil'wats over to, and he kept giving them gifts and stuff. And he even went around the country where our slaves or our people were taken as slaves. He got them back, he brought them back, and he brought them back to Lil'wat. So that was what happened in that battle. Yeah.
Were there, was there also traditional trails over the mountains into Pit Lake, down along the lakes?
We had trails all over the country here, and I do have maps, and that's what I'll be talking about tomorrow. That's why I have to take that map over here, and I guess I could have left it in here, because we had trails like, every which way, 2 trails going to Toba Inlet, going through the glacier and through Meager. And actually, 2 weeks ago, I was just up at the glacier there, and it receded like a kilometer. And I got to walk like a kilometer, and I did some videos, and I took some photos, and I posted those on my Facebook and my blogs there. And it was good to walk in this, the virgin ground there where nobody has walked before. But our ancestors from Solal Creek, where the glacier was, because in 1847 there's no Silt Lake back then in 1847. And so where we have a place named number 2, we call it Blocked, and 10 objects are there. And that's where the glacier used to be, and that's where the Salmon Brothers were training too at the time. But our people used, in the 1800s was the last time they went over the glaciers to Toba Inlet to Seashell, and it was so good to get out there to check it out. And we have a couple of trails going, like in Whistler, the Highway 99 is one of our trails, and the other trail is the Sioux Valley going up around Lesser Ring and down into Squamish River, right down into Squamish. Those are our old trails. And we have another trail from Wedge right over to Billy Goat and Stein. There's trails there, and when you go up to Duffy Lake, we have trails from Van Horlick coming down into Lil'wat Lake. They're all like shortcuts. And that one area, we called it the Payam means like a prairie, because in between Twin One and Van Horlick is just like a flat. Yeah, so. And that's another area we've killed people too, the Licking people in Twin One there. That's why there's hunting blinds there. People used to roll rocks down on them to kill them. And, because across the lake we have a point there, and to call it Plume, and that's where people have a lookout, and they got to see across where the Twin 1 and 2 are, and when you see the endings come down, they'd signal the warriors, and then get all the big boulders ready to shove it down on them. So those were the trails, and okay.
What kind of weapons did Lil'wat warriors use?
We had back in the days there were like spears, bow and arrows, and war clubs. And I think it was when the first world rushers came through. That's when our people first heard a musket. Yeah. So it was mostly like all Stone Age back then.
I have 2 questions. One is about some of the archaeological digs that you've been on, and how old some of the things are that you found. And the other one is about your trails. They don't seem to get overgrown. They seem to just stay there, even if they're not used like they were in the olden days.
Yeah. Well, like I've been following the old traditional trail from the fish camp to Duffy Lake. And I find parts of it here and there, because some of the highway goes over it and misses it, and when I find the trails there, and I'm marking it on the map and GPS and it's awesome to do that. I'll do this all in my own time. I actually really started doing this, and probably when I started, like probably 9 years old, started gathering information, and 69 at Walkerville at the Reed Road turnoff. There's two house pits there. I used to go play in those house pits as a kid, and when I went home in 69, I told my dad, oh, I'm playing in the house pits there, and it belonged to the Owl clan, and the Owl clan, they all died from the smallpox there. And my dad told me not to play there anymore. So I was going to go get a photo of them, and like 2 weeks later, but we had a general assembly on the white paper policy, so I stayed for the meeting, and after that, I'll go later. Then when I finally got going up there, then and I got there, the camera, but there's two flat decks there, and a lot of people taking them apart, dismantling them. So they're taken away, and there's tons of artifacts are taken away, and so we're lucky, to have a few yet around here. And Walker was plowing the field, leveling it out after they took all the house pits away. They just started pushing the dirt. You can see these really big bowls rolling in front of the blade of the cat there, and they were trying to stop them from destroying it. And he did stop, but he took the bowl. And the digs, we did a few digs in the house pits, and like across the pole yard there, it used to be Walker's Lot 49, but now we bought it back. And we did a dig there like 3 years ago, and we got a radiocarbon date from a house, from a fire pit in the middle of the house there, like 5,500-year-old. And down at we call it the Bailey Bridge, but by All Ridge turnoff, there's a village site there, and we got another radiocarbon date there, 2,670 years old there. And we did a dig down in Driftwood Bay last year, and one at Samson Creek. And last year we did one again on the west side of the Bailey Bridge, but we're waiting for the carbon dates for those. And,
The Bailey Bridge goes over the Birkenhead River?
Yeah. On the right side, we have a village site there. We still have members in the reserve that their grandfather's grandfather were living there at the time. And when we did the digs, we had a lot of artifacts and like arrowheads, spearheads, stone hammers, bowls, and we got them sent to SFU to get them dated and all that. And some of the tools come back like 7,000 years old. They're quite old. Yeah.
Was it a camp, the pit house by the Birkenhead, or was it a place that people lived?
The pit houses were permanent places that people live during the winter. And during the summer and spring, like right now, they'd be out in the mountains, they'd be hunting for days, and they're living in camp, lean-tos and stuff like that. And gathering all the food, then they bring it back, and caches, and prepare for the winter.
I read that a pit house was recently been uncovered and carbon dated back 5,000 years.
5,500,
Right across from, sorry?
Yeah, 5,500 right across the pole yard. We did have put those articles into the peak, and the question when we got those, got the carbon dates, and we did presentation.
So it was on this territory?
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, there are some other territories, a lot of territories are now doing that now, but it seems like we're quite ahead of them, far ahead of them. Yeah.
I have to say, the Lands and Resources Department is a special thing for the Pemberton area, because there's been a lot of archaeological study along the Fraser Canyon, but very little of its tributaries, and it's bands like Lil'wat that have invested in archaeology studies that are adding dates to the record, because there were no studies done in this area until the
I didn't
90s.
know. Yeah.
Do you know how far your people traveled before European contact?
Down to Mexico, as far as I heard.
To Mexico?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
How about to Alberta? Did they?
Oh yeah, I did go down that way too. Yeah, that's where we go trade some of our salmon and stuff.
I heard there was signs in six outside of Banff where they found both traces of teepees and pit houses.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah,
the two different type of
yeah,
housing so obviously people were trading or bringing their style of house from this part of the world or this part of your territories or your territories or the
yeah, when we
First
go
Nations
to
people.
Alberta, we call it the grease trail. Yeah, because that's where we have bear grease, fish grease and stuff that we trade with them over there, and back in those days was important. Yeah.
The owl clan, is there anywhere where I could research more about them?
Most of the owl clan, I think they've perished. Probably is like some from Olive Creek, like Eddie's Lake, and Olive Creek clan. They married each other and they married on to Anderson Lake, and as far as I know. And most of my grandmother's Olive clan, which is from down in Skefty, on my mom's side. And that's another thing that I've compiled my family tree on all the clans for my family, and the rest of their tribe is trying to do the same thing, so they're trying to catch up. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing, Johnny.
Yeah.
Very
Thank
interesting.
Thank you.